Think about how much more success you could have if you got that envy, that jealousy, and that hate out your heart.
When you reach such a successful piece of content, your viral moment, is there pressure to keep that up?
My business does about 1.7 million in revenue per year, and I have a team of one. It's just me.
The start of every entrepreneur's journey really is solopreneurship. You're forced to have to find a way to make it work.
What I recommend is work less, make the same money.
His courses are only $150.
He's making 1.3 on a $150 course. That's impeccable.
What's poppin', what's poppin', what's poppin'? Welcome Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And on this episode, Solopreneur versus Entrepreneur. Solopreneur was looked at super negative. It was downplayed. You almost looked like the scum if you talked about Solopreneur. But now, people are making millions. Which one is better? Build it right instead of build it fast. We got more lessons from Netflix. You know we got to talk about it. The Shannon Sharpe blueprint. How to go viral. I mean, out of here. And then question of the week, rapid decision or group chat? Moose, how do you feel about this episode?
Hey, when there's options, there's opportunity. So that's what this is about. It's new options to essentially introduce y'all to some opportunity of how y'all can build it. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Let's get it.
Come on, I like how you said that. Let's get into this intro.
Two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
And of course, this is powered by Ecam Live, the #1 all-in-one streaming platform that can not only do podcasting, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all these other platforms, but it's great for presentations. It's great for meetings. It could do it all. And all you gotta do is go to www.nickyandmoose.com/ecam for your 14-day trial. Listen. Moose, this is kind of special. Wait, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was expecting a little something different. No, I said, I noticed that. I was expecting a little something different, but then I remembered our plan for our Patreon peeps, right?
Yeah, we live on Patreon.
Hello.
Yeah, we live on Patreon. It's a vibe. But first and foremost, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Good. I'm proud of myself to have been the busiest that I've been in quite a long time. And no missed prayers. No missed prayers.
Very good.
You know what I'm saying? Like that to me, I was just literally sitting and reflecting on that. I'm like, okay, a lot of meetings, a lot of calls, but 5 daily prayers are still being completed. And I'm grateful for that. That for me actually is a big accomplishment. Yeah.
I like that for you.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. It's raining is crazy, but you know.
Oh, bananas out here. Yeah, no, absolutely crazy. Yeah. So crazy. Let me tell you about this thing that happened, right? Not that it happened, but I was watching Netflix again the other night, and I came across this documentary called Bitconnect.
Okay.
Right?
I think I saw
Bitconnect.
the banner or something.
Yeah. It popped up on my, I guess call it homepage or whatnot. And essentially it was about the first Bitcoin company, or one of the biggest Bitcoin-based companies that was a complete scam. And all along, There were essentially two main co-founders that brought on a third. They did some of the craziest things, right? They were so gifted and talented in terms of their ability to market, to obviously attract new investors and people to buy into the idea. They had people like Floyd Mayweather, DJ Khaled that endorsed the product, like they came on and did videos and shared this idea out to their own platforms. They raised millions of dollars, Nix. And then they show the backstory of the decline. What happens? First off, they had a fake CEO. They literally got a Google photo of a CEO, put it on their homepage. They had fake credentials, like that. They said that they went to Harvard and all this stuff. The crazy thing to me, though, is how could you be so skilled to know that this is essentially the way to make your business attract top-tier talent, to raise money, to get investors to buy into your idea and what you're doing, and not at any point make a legitimate effort to be legit? You know what I'm saying? Like that was my whole time. The whole time I'm watching, I'm like, yo, y'all are so talented. Like the main thing that everyone struggles with, whether it's communicating with confidence, pitching investors, getting people to buy in, marketing, all of it, you got it down packed. And the adjustments to just go legit and essentially stop lying are right there in front of you. Now, I know towards the end of the documentary, they said that they tried, but it was too late. Then the FTC got involved and, they had to serve some time. The company got shut down. But honestly, it was just an important lesson that I know today's business landscape, entrepreneurship, branding, everything, there are so many shortcuts. There are so many ways for us to accelerate and jump to the top or do whatever the case may be. But just know that integrity is still undefeated. Like doing things the right way, fulfilling on your promises, taking care of people. Of course, it's sad when you hear that people who invested, rarely any of them got their money back. So that obviously is very unfortunate. Yeah. Very few people. I think they said they raised millions of dollars, and I think they only had to pay back maybe $2 million. So in comparison to how much was raised, that's almost nothing. So just a reminder to all the entrepreneurs out there, man, regardless of what it is. And I know people listening to this, obviously that's not something that we worry about for them, but go hard at that. Like, don't think that will ever go out of style or it will make it difficult for you to win. I don't believe that anymore at all. I actually believe that some of the most successful people, because remember, anyone can have success. Not anyone can have sustained success. That's the name of the game, sustained success. And you can't have that without operating in integrity.
Okay, bars. Right. Okay. Yeah. You got that? That's what you got from Netflix? Sheesh. You're right. For me, this is actually going to combine a little bit with the creator of the week, right? We've let this kind of go for a little bit. We didn't mention it right away. But what I've learned and creator of the week has to go to Shannon Sharpe. Has to, okay? By the time this is played, I'm going to say hitting well over 40, 50 mil off of the Cat Williams episode.
Wow.
And the reason why I want to bring him up is because he is somebody to really pay attention to when we're talking about the content game, right? So I actually was on my live talking about this, and I was like, I got to bring this to the podcast, where I'm saying, 40 clips alone on YouTube about that episode. So meaning he had over a 2-hour episode with Cat Williams, right? Of course, how he broke it down, he knew what was going to break the internet. He knew. He actually put a picture up that was like, get ready for this interview to break the internet. Paraphrasing, but he said something like that with him and Cat Williams as a picture, right? And so he clipped certain parts that he knew was probably going to hit the blogs heavy. And boy, it did. Okay? To the point where everything that Cat Williams was saying was getting responded by the people he actually did call out or didn't call out, right? Shout out to Mike Epps. He was like, yo, I would just wish you would have mentioned my name, actually.
That's funny.
And so it's masterful to see because he was very intentional with what he clipped up, how many he clipped up. Like I said, he did 40 clips alone on YouTube. I believe he did over 16 to 20, probably a little bit over than that, of social media clips, like the vertical ones, right? Because he knew the blogs were going to take care of the rest, and in which they did. But this is pretty much not the first time that he's done that. I think we brought it up before when Jada Pinkett did her thing, and he came out with an interview with Tommy Davidson, who I don't believe anybody was talking about at the time. And he happened to talk about Jada Pinkett and Will Smith on the exact time that the Jada Pinkett stuff had blew up, that, you know, when she dropped her book. So I got a clip because Shannon Sharpe also, what's cool is that from when I was introduced to him, he was on Undisputed. I think that was what the show was called, right? Some drama happened over there. He left, went to First Take with Stephen A. Smith. But I think that that drama caused him to control a lot of his content to where now he has a very successful podcast. He has Nightcap with Ocho, and which is pretty much a night show, like a virtual night show. And all we are seeing now is Shannon Sharpe. You got to really respect what he is doing and how he is creating range for his brand. So, of course, a lot of people were hating on him for the Cat Williams interview, which is wild. I can only congratulate him. But this is what he had to say to address the haters.
There are people that do what you and I do.
Yeah.
That had so much to say. And it's only because of jealousy. Because I guarantee you, if Cat was on their podcast and did exactly what he did on my podcast,
right,
they would have never said what they're saying. My subscribers on Club Shay Shay jumped up 500,000. That's what you mad about?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to leave it alone, Ocho.
Yes, sir.
Think about how much more success you could have if you got that envy, that jealousy, and that hate out your heart.
Come on now. Come on, preacher.
Hey, look at this. I got this out the mud. I came from the trenches.
Right.
And you got more hate in your heart with all that you got, that you've been blessed with so much, and all you do is hate on a man that you think better. How about get better? Create better content.
It's crazy because we can learn from that too. Not necessarily from that clip, I mean, of course, but more of how do you look at your content and how do you milk it to the full extent. If he took 2 hours of a podcast and he created the 40 clips, right? And it's crazy if and shout out to Isaiah, who I know is going to put it on the screen, where he had like Cat Williams talk about Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Kevin Hart, and he put that all in one clip. And then he broke it down into when he spoke about each and every single one of them. So Cat Williams talk about Kevin Hart, Cat Williams talk about Cedric the Entertainer, Cat Williams talking about so-and-so. Like he grouped them and then he broke them down. Why? Because he knew not everybody was going to be watching a 2-hour episode. 2 hours is pretty long, especially with that type of energy. So let me get straight to the point. You want to know what's happening? Boom. He does this a lot with his podcast, but of course he didn't go so much into how many clips before, except for this one, because he knew. And I look at that as we don't even do enough with our content. We drop it and that's it, right? Or you look at our content, you drop it once and that's kind of it. And where you need to learn how to, and not in a aggressive manner I'm saying that, but I mean, all of us have to learn how to take a long form video, chop it up into smaller bits, chop it up into YouTube clips, chop it up into quotes, do audio clips. We have to milk out as much as we can because we don't know in this day and age what's going to hit. We can only hope. And there is a certain formula as far as, you know, the getting viral, but there still is that guessing game because of the algorithm, that guessing game because of when you post, what time you're posting, that guessing game if you, you know, you didn't put the right captions and everything. You could do everything right, understanding why people come into social media or watch YouTube. It's mainly to get entertained, educate, and inspire and empowered. You can add all of that into your content and it has the possibility of going. But sometimes we don't want to bank on it and we always have to have some type of backups. And that's why you need to milk certain things out. So for me, I was like, yo, now granted, I didn't watch the full episode, right? I have to protect my energy. Like, that's just some wild stuff going on. But
Yeah.
I did do research as far as like trying to understand what happened and why is it going crazy the way it is. Cat Williams actually, because his name is so trending right now, he jumped on another podcast that did a million in a couple of hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Now, the funny thing is, I think Shannon Sharpe was asked like, "Yo, how do you beat that?" So now the conversation for most is like, when you reach such a successful piece of content, your viral moment, is there pressure to keep that up? And he was like, to be honest, like the only way this is going to work if, you know, Jordan comes on, if LeBron comes on, like just people who don't normally talk and they come and they actually have a story. He mentioned, which was cool. He mentioned that the comedians do so well because of, I know how to tell a story. I know how to entertain, get you wrapped in, give you all the information that you need to know, right?
Yeah.
Give you that warm feeling, that funny feeling. They give all the elements. And so he doesn't look like there's, you know, the pressure is weighing him as far as, oh, how do I beat that? Or what do I do? But I do believe like a normal person would have that anxiety of like
100%. Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
did you watch it?
Same thing you did, just the clips that are going around and listening, and got a pretty good gist of, you know, what essentially the full thing is. But no, not the full thing, just little clips.
Yeah, no, I can shout out to Cat Williams, but that energy, I don't know. But the if you pay attention, go back. Like I said, it's been a week or two since the podcast, that interview dropped. So go back, see it. I mean, they've created memes, they've created clips, they created pictures, they created so many different things. It's more of just looking at it, not only from an entertainment side, but more from a, how do I say it? A lesson side as well. Yeah, from an education side, because there's something, he's creating his own blueprint. How he, for one, we don't even consider that as a podcast. Like his production is just so amazing that it probably is a podcast, but I don't think anybody truly considers it as a podcast, because we'll go to YouTube or we'll watch the clips of what's happening. So I think it's something we need to pay attention to. I'm just saying. I'm gonna pay attention to. This is me.
Big facts.
Yeah, this is just me. I do have a question for you, though. I do have a question, because I just mentioned it. Like, we don't consider that a podcast. Do you feel that podcasts are dying?
It's an interesting conversation. Okay. Just because I feel the dynamic of content in 2024 is going to change a little bit. I think it's going to go back into, at least, let me take that back. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm not like seasoned enough or really deep on content like that to know where it's going to go. But what I'm sensing is there's a retro throwback feel coming. So like I'm seeing pictures and long captions again, right? So like there's a little bit of shift happening. And I think with that, their podcasts are definitely not as popular as they were in 2020. I think now you're really starting to see people run with it and others just get lost in the sauce or essentially just disappear away. But for some reason, I feel audio is gonna still be the most convenient, right? Like for me, I have been so adamant about reading because of the discipline that you develop to sit down and focus and all that. But quite honestly, I have not read a book in probably over 2 years, but I've listened to over 40, if not more, you know? So like the audio, no. It's just, I've just listened to so much. So I think people who continue to stay consistent with what they're doing and create that, accessible information and make it easy to digest. I don't know how if we're gonna see that large influx that happened in 2020 though. I don't know. It's interesting. We're gonna see what happens in 24.
I know I've slowed down on listening to podcasts. There's some that are staple though. So I do, I don't know if I'm seeking for new ones, but I'm always listening to some of the staple ones that I know. But I'll skip a week or two. I mean, I'll skip a week. Yeah. I don't know. How about this? For our listeners, do you skip a week of us? We're not offended. I just keep it real. Because, I just admitted that I skip a few. But
it's real.
Yeah, it's just a random question of the day. A random question of the day. So since that was a combo of creator of the week and kind of what I've learned, I actually wanted that to happen because we have a lot to talk about, right? We have something that I'm actually really passionate about talking about, which is this Solopreneur rise. Okay? Solopreneur rise. So we're going to state that the topic is Solopreneur versus entrepreneur. But I want to go in the context of more of getting rid of the negative vibes of what we think of solopreneur. Because I know me coming up, I was about to say coming up in the ranks, I'm so military, Jesus. Me coming up, when you think of business, solopreneur gets a bad rap. Solopreneur isn't necessarily taken serious by quote unquote entrepreneurs, right? Which is which is so weird. It's like, I really feel like it's from a sneakerhead standpoint, when you look at Jordans and then like Team Jordans, we don't necessarily take Team Jordans very serious, right? Whoever has Team Jordan, shout out to y'all, but sneakerheads don't necessarily take Team Jordan sneakers serious, right? So I almost think of it in that same context. But there has been a serious rise on it. So I'm going to play a video where you listen to just some numbers. Just listen to some numbers of one person named Justin Welsh.
My business does about 1.7 million in revenue per year, and I have a team of one. It's just me.
Can you break down the 1.7 million, like where that comes in from?
1.3 million in courses. I'll do about 144 to 150,000 in coaching, 108 to 120 in sponsorships, about 100 to 103 in subscriptions, and then around 24 to 30K in affiliates.
And the course that you have, that's the majority of the revenue. What is the course?
A 2-hour course on how to use LinkedIn effectively. And so I just basically walk people through, like, how do I think about building a following that matters? Not like, yay, I got clicks and likes and virality because I shared a fun story or a sentimental story, but like, how do you build a business on the platform? And that's my major course.
Now, those are some serious numbers. Serious numbers. And when we're talking about Solopreneur, another video pops up. I'm just setting this up for the scene. You know what I mean? I'm setting this up for the conversation. But another video pops up that makes me think as well.
Go into like why you've preferred quality of life and like what you optimize for.
There's this whole battle between like, should you be a solopreneur or should you like go full scale, hire a team, like grow a business? For me, it's like, I don't like to manage people. I think people are awesome, but like, there's not enough talk about the negative side of having a team. Not that having a team is inherently bad. I mean, you can do infinitely more with a team than you could by yourself. But the negative side of that and the consequences of it aren't talked about that often. And it's always like just hating on solopreneurs. It's like, yeah, well, there's negatives to growing at all costs and that sort of thing too. So it's like,
it's an ego thing.
Yeah, so if I'm making enough money and I don't have to work a ton, I'm doing what I love, and my stress level is at a rate that I can handle, why embark on scaling and growing and dealing with all the pains of that? And like, I'm fine.
So hearing that got me like, I'm gonna need to consider some things lately. 2024 is here. This is sounding amazing, not necessarily just from the money wise, but what he said as far as the negative side doesn't necessarily get talked a lot about. And I'll jump into my experience with that later. But Moose, off of those two clips alone, what is your take? What has been like your experience with understanding what Solopreneur is, and then your take on those videos?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting that the Solopreneur is gaining more, let's call it attention and acceptance overall today than when it was most pressing, right? Because I think the start of every entrepreneur's journey really is solopreneurship, not entrepreneurship, because you're forced, due to lack of resources, in many cases even lack of experience, you're forced to have to find a way to make it work. And the beauty of that approach is you get to know the ins and outs of everything, or a good majority of everything. Now, do you do it at a really high level, or do you do everything at a really high level? Usually not the case. And that's where team becomes a part of the conversation for scale. So in a lot of ways, that has been exactly my experience, right? I entered one-man shop, solopreneur, did everything from HR to sales and marketing and this, and this. And then you realize that, okay, good, even great to some capacity, but if I really want to get to the next level, I think this is the way. Now, I think the question I have for you, which I'm curious, is why do you think that is Solopreneur is now coming back on the table? And surprisingly, it's coming back on the table with scale. Like, if the transition to entrepreneurship, team building, and everything was the reason for scale, it was the primary reason for scale. In the past, now you're seeing solopreneurs similar to what really Justin Welsh and the second video there also share. Like, we're making the money, so it's not like you're short on finances either. So the scale is available in solopreneurship, but yeah, what's your take on it overall?
So I think I'll say it this way. The understanding of automations is probably why this is now starting to be a real conversation and looked at as a little bit more serious than before, right? Because if we're hearing numbers of my man making 1.7 mil a year and he's only one person, and there's people who are entrepreneurs and they have a team and they have not reached that, you got to look at it like, Now, of course, we're getting into my topic of, with the rise of AI, you can duplicate yourself. The whole thing about entrepreneur and having a team is to duplicate yourself so you can have time. Well, with AI, you can have some time, right? It cuts down a lot of things or kind of pretty much removes a whole day for you, depending on how good you are with automations. And the thing with solopreneurs is not saying you don't work with anybody. Like, you still work with contractors. You still have kind of a group of people you can have to work on your stuff from project to project. It just means that it's not necessarily payroll. It's not necessarily you are responsible. You are still able to do whatever you need to do. So I think that's why people are taking it a little bit more serious. Of course, we're a little bit more documented now, so numbers are coming out and being a little bit more transparent than before, where you think of a solopreneur before, and it's more, you see them always working, you see them with nobody, not making so much money, and they're always earning what they make, and is never necessarily passive, right? I got a very interesting clip for you that I think you may like, right?
Yeah.
That breaks down the framework, because I've been really big on Justin Welsh, right? Big on him, just really paying attention to his movements. And he has a whole framework of how you can live this solopreneur life. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this.
I like to always recommend to people, they offer a service business. What's something that you can do using your skill where you're trading your time for money and you're making a nice hourly rate or project rate, right? Once you do that and you really niche down in your service business, you can raise your rates. When you raise your rates, you have two options: work more and make more money, or work less and make the same money because you've raised your rates. What I recommend is work less, make the same money, and take all that newfound time to figure out how to build a digital product for all the people that fall outside of your ideal customer profile. The next natural thing for you might be, and again, it doesn't have to be, launching a newsletter. If you can do that, you now have a new revenue stream, sponsorships, right? Then as you start to think about your product business, what are some very narrow things that you can create that will help people inside of your product business? I also have a very narrow product called the monthly templates, which are 5 simple social media templates you can use every month to grow your following. I add those onto the course as a one-click upsell. They cost $9 a month. I have 3,000 subscribers. It's a $27,000 a month business where I send one email. So now you've got a service business, a product business, sponsorships, subscription email. I could go on forever in ways that you can monetize under the same umbrella.
What do you think?
Masterful. Yeah, masterful. I mean, it's funny because I was taking some notes on what you were sharing with automation and AI and like you said there. And of course, one of the key factors to really point out is that this is really most doable in the digital space, right? For people who have a physical business, brick and mortar, or anything really outside of the digital landscape, solopreneurship is really where you can put yourself in a bad position, and it can be, difficult to do there. But that is a very legitimate way. What, Justin Welch just explained there, that is a very legitimate way to create multiple streams off of essentially the same centralized ecosystem or user base that is already in your place. And the one thing that I want people listening to this to really take note on, notice he didn't say a $900 program or a $900 or a $9,000 upsell. It was a $9 upsell. And when you look at the multiplier effect of that on a monthly basis over time, you're talking close to 300 grand, if not more. Now, a year, right, with something very small, almost like a set it and forget it type experience. So that breakdown should really help a lot of us to see that you don't always have to swing for the fences to connect your ecosystem and really make it make sense or be super profitable for you. You can actually do a lot of simple, tangible ways, or tangible adjustments, I should say, that will help people and also be very lucrative for you financially. Now, again, he has the advantage of having the audience, but that's why we talk about content, branding, a lot of these elements, through the podcast, because that is everyone's path to getting an audience. You're not going to get an audience just because, right? Content is the path to gain an audience, and that essentially is what I think he broke down so well.
Yeah, there's a part in there that is so genius that I want to try to apply. When he was talking about the subscription base, right? Where he has his course, right? He has his digital product, and he has actually two now. The one that we heard earlier, which was the LinkedIn one, and then he has like a content operator one. Now, when they buy that, his courses are only $150, right? Just understanding his whole thought process.
He's making 1.3 on a $150 course. That's impeccable. That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. So his whole one, I do believe he understands where the landscape of courses are right now. But two, his whole thing is he goes more from a long-term range. He always wants people to be like, yo, this is a $1,000 course. This is a $5,000 course, and always feel like he over delivers. So there's never a doubt that when he drops something else, that is going to like over deliver on that product too. So it's really dope to see, but that he understands that, okay, look, you've clearly come here to grow your social media. If you pay only $10 a month, I'm going to just give you these 5 templates that I do every month to help you grow. Put that in the email, boom, and they buy it because they're already there. He sends one email, it goes crazy. And when I think about, subscriptions, I instantly think the complex ones, the ones that start at $40, $50, right? And higher, where you're breaking it down to like, how many videos are you giving the person? How often are you showing up? Is there calls? Is all these different things? Of course, that's what I've been kind of groomed into understanding the subscription base, when literally it's just, what else can you slowly add, put a small price point. It's extremely valuable, and it doesn't take you so much time. So all the things that he was saying in there, besides the service-based part, was, you know what? This doesn't take so much time for me. This does not take so much time. And what was crazy, when he was talking about the what was it? The service-based one. He was like, yo, you're going to get to a point where you either raise your prices, right? Or, and you do more work, or you do less work and you make the same amount. I say do that. And so you can then turn your information into a digital product for those people who don't meet your ideal client status. And I was like, shh.
It's good. Yep.
Because you always think you got to raise prices at a certain point.
Absolutely. No, you're always going for more. You know, I think in entrepreneurship, you're taught, or for some reason, naturally, you think that the only way to get more is by offering more, higher. Like, we don't always take the most efficient route into doing it. You know, a couple of weeks ago when I said, hey, one of my favorite terms in business is MRR, and I was referring to monthly reoccurring revenue, you know, you got to imagine that what he's saying here, which is very similar to subscriptions, right? Or what he talked about with the $9 for 5 templates. You got 3,000 people on there. The cool thing is you're never pressed, or you don't feel the same type of pressure as another entrepreneur who has to start at 0 every single month. You know, like, think of the peace of mind that comes with starting at positive $27,000 a month because of your subscription model, versus you could have crushed it last month. And yeah, you feel good, like you're not hungry for money, but your books start back at 0 on the first of the month. So I think that's one of those things also that I got to imagine for people who don't perform well under pressure, building something similar to the ecosystem that was just described here is actually should be one of your most important action items, because of the luxury to not have to start at 0 every month. So yeah, it's a major. I mean, that's so good. Yeah.
Well, I had that framework was really good, just because what I wanted to do was have the conversation, and this is not the question of the week, but you know how we do. If it ends up longer, cool. But from seeing the landscape of solopreneurship, entrepreneurship, where do you stand as a whole, and why?
Yeah. Okay. So I got to admit, I am definitely a team guy. You know, I'm definitely a team guy. It has a lot to do with, of course, my sports background and just growing up doing things by myself. I also get a personal satisfaction of doing something with someone. So I can tolerate compromise, working with others very well. I'm okay with that because of the opportunity to do something that I possibly could have not even thought of. Right? Like, there's a lot of things that I'm involved in, and I always feel that the beauty of working in a team, especially when you have your team set up in the appropriate fashion, there are ideas that come to the table where you're like, I did not think about that. Like, I would have never imagined we would end up at this destination. But it's the contributions that come from people who have different walks of life, different experiences, different ways of just seeing the world and what they're listening to. And when a healthy dynamic is at play, those are the things that I really enjoy the most. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a big ego person, so it's not like I need to be right every time, or I need it done my way, exactly the way I want every single time. So for me, team is my ideal spot. Like, that's where I thrive, and I my bread and butter in a sense.
Now, what is your response to what the second guy said as far as the negative side of the team situation?
Yeah, now that's the part that I think is, I don't want to say misconstrued in a sense, but there are a lot of bad practices that are often overlooked in a team dynamic. And I was just listening to Diary of CEO again this morning, and I'm in one of the deeper chapters where he talks about a lot of the reason, or one of the main reason why those things exist or they happen, and it's not just in team. I'm dragging it into the team factor because it's essentially the same thing. It's the discomfort or the discomfort that people feel with having an uncomfortable conversation. That's what creates really unhealthy, call them communication rituals, or just things that should not be happening in the workplace or within the team dynamic. When someone becomes uncomfortable with having those dialogues and they let that build up take place, then what you should gain from having a team dynamic doesn't exist. So, or it essentially, it erases itself. It eliminates what the benefit is. So I get it. Like, I understand that it's very difficult to have different personalities and different wants and different needs, but I'm big on intentionally crafting a team and a culture that is designed to mesh well together, to have empathy and is willing to make some sacrifices and deposits, depending on the season, really, so that the whole can stay together over time. That's my thing. I can't neglect the fact that challenges are going to happen, that, there's going to be fights and arguments and all that. That's absolutely true. But to say it's not worth the headache, I don't think so. I think that you might need to make replacements rather quickly. I think you might need to have tough conversations also early and quickly, and not just skip over or skim over some of the necessary things that usually create that separation or make it difficult for people to function on a team. But to eliminate it completely, I'm not a fan of.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For me, so first off, I love the team that I have now. Okay, so this is not saying, okay, now I'm getting rid of them, right? However, this is what I'll say. However, so there is Deeper Than the Brand, and then there's Nicky, right? I do believe that Nicky pours into Deeper Than the Brand, and it just works side by side with it, and so that's perfectly fine. But I do, there's something that he said in that interview that really hit home, where his concentration is life and then work, right? There is I would say an underlying culture when it comes to entrepreneurship, where it almost feels as if it's always work, and then you're trying to figure out work-life balance, right? That's always been one of the biggest things. It's like work-life balance, burnout. You hear that very common in entrepreneurship. Not saying that it doesn't happen in solopreneurship, but with the solopreneurship, it gives the vibes of you can control what happens. And what I love about entrepreneurship, because you are thinking of others, right?
Yeah.
You're providing jobs, you're providing legacy, you're providing all these different things. Absolutely. Some people are just happy in their little mini world. And their little mini world is very successful. I look at it from start solo to then duplicate. So meaning go the solo route, make the money to then invest in other things that is going to create the legacy, right? Whether it is a SaaS product, whether it is going just strictly real estate and those types of investments and things like that. So that, that's still coming in, and things just doesn't die with you. So, but I do believe that it could be an interesting ride, and not being so feeling as if you are less than. Being a solopreneur if you play your cards right and you have the right systems and you go, understanding the products that you have and then creating the content that goes along with the products, if we're paying attention to how the solopreneurship model is right now, because it seems as if the ones that are killing it are the ones that are content heavy. So you hear of Dan Coe, who I'm extremely loving his book. And if you listen to his audiobook, you feel smarter. I'm just letting you know we're going to do a breakdown, hopefully next week or the following week. Okay. And I'm trying to really absorb. I feel really smart. He makes me feel smart, but it's neither here nor there. I feel like I can focus after a while, but, you see people like Dan Coe, you see people like Justin Welsh, and Justin Welsh is dope in LinkedIn. That's how he's gained majority of his following. He just concentrated on one medium, which proves that you don't have to be all over the place. But when we're paying attention to that type of model, which is why I'm kind of intrigued by it, is that they have a product and they make everything else make sense after the product. So if he has his LinkedIn, how to, grow social media type product, then his newsletter is about that same thing. His content that he writes about is going to be about that same thing. So the messaging is very clear and people know exactly why they're going to him and for what it is and what is going to be the transformation. Where some of us are creating content just to create content. Then they figure we have to do a newsletter. I got to do a newsletter. What the hell am I going to be talking about in this newsletter? Okay, eventually this product is going to happen. So I'll create the product, but now I have to create content around the product, but I have all this other content that it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so when you kind of look at that structure of product, newsletter, content, and getting the source of all the information from the product, it hits different. I mean, it just is it makes things just a little bit more streamlined, not only for yourself as far as systems wise, but as well as for your audience of messaging and clarity. So I say all that. I said a long answer to say that I think in 2024, I'm going to really be concentrating on kind of both models.
Solopreneurs.
Yeah, I think really, really concentrating on that, but bringing the solo part, the traffic to deeper than the brand. And how does that all kind of work? But it's a very interesting model that I feel that I'll have a lot of control with, and not having to deal with two different teams. I think I only have the energy for one. I've gone through a lot with that one. So I probably got like a few more tries before I go solo.
Wow. But
I think I have energy for one. I will keep that energy for them and be very present for that. But I'm doing a lot of studying on these different models. I forgot his name. I got to get his name. We'll put it in the show notes and the description with the second guy who talked, because that's the one who productized himself. Right. So what he did was he's a graphic designer and he has specific packages that he has like templates and everything like that, and that's his thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's made over $1 million in this by productizing himself, not working project to project. This is a subscription base. This is what you get. Cool. I'm like, yeah, I need to system me out. We need, you know what I mean?
What I like about your kind of model, like you said there, is so like, for example, I think one of the drawbacks with being a solopreneur is the challenge of fulfilling customer support, right? Just that component. So I like the balanced approach that you're taking, because even if that issue were to arise, you have a method for doing it. Now, I know, of course, some people do like FAQs and they keep it pretty much self-sustained, even in the customer support department. It's pretty seamless overall. But just to create that experience, I think that might be one of the benefits. But I'm curious, from your take, what do you think is one of the biggest drawbacks of solopreneurship, or just for the solopreneur model in general?
I believe one of the drawbacks, one, loneliness, hands down, solo. You feel me?
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
But this is why it's important to kind of have a soundboard, like people that your team of advisors still, you know, even as a solopreneur, you just have that kind of that board of advisors to go to, bounce certain things. This is where community is very heavy. But loneliness, of course, is one of those things. Depending on the season that you're in, and if you don't have your automations and kind of planning done right, an immature solopreneur could possibly still be in that hamster wheel of always working to get what they have, right? So that's where, instead of like here, I'm out for a few days, y'all hold it down, right? You don't necessarily have that if you are not if you're not planning this correctly. So that's I believe those two are some of the biggest drawbacks. And then, of course, like if you are a person that's like you want to provide opportunities, it's not as like, yo, I got my job from there. Even though, like I said, you can contract people out. Like when you say the customer service thing, that's a contract service. That's a service provider.
Right.
You feel me? So like that could happen in any moment. An assistant happen that's a service provider. So you look at things like that, and it could happen, but you gotta there's drawbacks to each to both of them. I don't think one beats the other. I think it's just a preference.
No, 100%. Yeah, a preference, and like having an honest conversation with yourself about if you're someone who is often procrastinating, or you are not necessarily self-reliant, like you can't do things on your own. I don't know that solo is the way for you. Like solo may not be the best thing. Like those are some things that you might need to address before jumping into the solo boat. Keeping the team boat. I mean, heck, even in a team boat, those things are not good. They're not good traits to take into the team boat. But heck, at least you have some help in the team boat. And of course, I know, I get what you're saying, Nick, about having contractors to support you and all that. But, definitely, I think part of that equation is like being honest with yourself. Like, hey, where can I really see myself thriving the most? And, I'm more of a service person. That's why I think, and service by me, like I enjoy the idea of collectively serving together and that whole thing. So that's why team is my thing. But that honest conversation that all of us should have, I think is an important part.
Listen, either way, I'm exploring. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm exploring. Yeah, but so real quick, what's interesting is the definitions of these preneur situations. So before the episode started, we were trying to figure out the topic and things like that. And my understanding, because what originally was supposed to be was like an entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur.
Right.
And my understanding of an entrepreneur was creating within, but I thought it was like creating your own while you were under the company, not creating for the company, right?
Yes.
And only for the company.
Yes.
I was, and that's why I switched very quickly, right? But I love that there's so many different preneur situations to give you options. So I don't have necessarily the clip, and we may talk about it in the after show, where if you don't because there's some people, and it is perfectly fine. Let me state this. I don't believe everybody should be a solopreneur, an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody. I don't necessarily care what anybody says. I do believe ownership is for everybody. And ownership could literally be stocks for some people. Yep. Like ownership would be a house. Like it don't have to necessarily be of any type of work status and career status. But the entrepreneur one was very interesting, but I think I have too much trauma to talk about it, where you are, if you don't want to do the entrepreneurship or the solopreneurship way, where pretty much everything falls on you, you have to have your own resources, you have to do your own thing. This is where inside of your 9 to 5, you are using their resources and building it up. And you are pretty much kind of like a partner inside of what you are creating. Like they know that you're doing it for them. They give you kind of free range. They give you all these different things. And you're able to build up your skills in that kind of way while still having that owner vibe. I thought that was very interesting once I figured out exactly what it was, but I didn't have 40 minutes of talking about it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. No, it's definitely a very team culture or company strategy or an approach to running, departments and operations. But, oh dang, I lost my train of thought. I had something to tell you about that. Shoot. I don't know what I was going to say about it. I literally just slipped my mind, but I'm sure it'll come back to me in a second.
Hey. If not, we have the after show.
Hey.
We have the after show. I mean, we can still do the question. We at the hour mark. But we can still do the question of the week. So of course, this segment is sponsored by flightassessment.com. Discover your personal superpower and learn how to use your superpower to become a master communicator, strengthen all your relationships, and develop the self-awareness you need to fulfill your highest potential. Flightassessment.com. Here is this is so me. This is such a me question. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Rapid decision versus group consensus. Are quicker decision-making processes in solopreneurship or just entrepreneurship preferred to the potentially richer outcomes of a group consensus in entrepreneurship?
Dang. We've had this conversation, at least over the last 2 weeks, where I said, I like the idea of letting everyone know about what's going on and this idea of group. But we all have to be mindful of the fact that when too many hands enter the pot, there's traffic begins to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going to run into each other with a burning hot pot in the kitchen if there's 5 of you, when the kitchen can only hold 2 or whatever the case may be. So I'm very mindful of that. But I have to say, I think it's going to depend on the type of problem, because there are some situations that are just too complex that require different perspectives, especially if the perspectives that you're bringing in are not just opinionated, feedback or someone just giving you their opinion about what you should do, but they're bringing in experience and data, maybe unique to their, let's call it department, or to something that is required, like a necessary ingredient or element for what we're trying to do. Okay, give me some experience and some data based on that so that we can consider all of these things before making our move. Yeah. So that is where I really favor group decision making and doing some root cause analysis around what was the cause of it. Are we thinking about that? Again, I keep going back to Diary of CEO, but he said that a lot of people answer it's so good. I really love it. He said a lot of people answer the question why they will succeed, but they never answer the question why they will fail. And if you spend some time thinking about why you will fail, sometimes you can eliminate your attempt at trying to do something altogether, because sometimes it's just not worth it. You know, he talked about the wanting to launch a podcast network and his decision not to do that.
Yeah.
And keeping the resources focused on the main thing, you know, accelerated their growth by like a crazy multiple. So I think that's where group consensus or group decision making makes sense.
Yeah. I'm torn. I'm torn with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn with this one because I'm so for the people, and the way my immature self, because I'm such an extremist, right? I will not listen to you, or I will listen to all of you, right? So there was a time where I wasn't listening to anybody. These are the ideas. This is what we're rocking with. This is where we go.
Yeah.
Go, right?
Yeah.
And then when I had honest conversations of like, yo, I didn't feel heard, right? I said, that's valid. So now I go, everybody, we're talking about it with everybody, right?
Bring it in.
Come on, talk about it. And then you hear, because of course you're dealing with different personalities, and then there's some that you're hoping would give feedback who won't. There's some who you wish didn't give feedback, and they do.
But they do.
You know? And it's like, oh my God. And then you had it in your mind what the answer and what the thought process was going to be, and then it didn't end up that way. Then you question yourself of like, if everybody's saying no, should we do it? It's a lot. So I'm very torn, but I do believe that when it becomes to decision making, I think I'm going to go with the rapid one after the conversation is made. So
Agreed.
Meaning, you could talk about, let's say, the idea, right?
Yeah.
And get the feedback that you may need, but the decision making must be quick and final.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So people, it goes into a balance of people are heard, and this is where you're going a little bit more on the radically open-minded side of like going into a situation not only thinking that you are right and only your idea is good. So you hear that, but the final say, the final decision, and that whole nine is still going to be you, because like I said, it bit me in the behind listening to everybody. It really has. 2023 was a interesting lesson of where I fell back and I listened, and I could clearly see that I was listening too much. And
no, you hit it on the head.
Yeah.
You hit it on the head. You know, group thought, or maybe group ideas, final decision, maybe on the solo. I think that's the move.
Yay!
It's good.
Listen, people, this was really dope just because this was our first time streaming in Patreon, right? For those who didn't know, we normally do lives on YouTube. And what happened is we're like, you know what? We're going to actually do live episodes instead of the YouTubes. We're going to do live behind the scenes episodes for our Patreon. So they're pretty much when you hear and see this, they already heard it a week ago, pretty much. Okay. So we're going to explore this a little bit. I'm interested in the after show because of how it started. So I'm very interested, which that's also in Patreon. So if you're not part of our Patreon, patreon.com/Nicky and Moose. It's a vibe over there. We got all the after shows, video, audio. Now we have behind the scenes, raw and uncut episodes. It's a situation. It's a situation. It's a situation. Of course, flightassessment.com. Do you have anything else coming up? Do y'all got boot camps? Y'all got what y'all got? What you got on?
We have a certification that is scheduled for the last weekend in February.
Okay.
February 25th, I believe, is the day for that. So that is up and live at extremeexecution.com.
Okay, I like that. And I officially announced the mastermind, the Puerto Rico mastermind, May 17th and 18th, 19th if you're an elite. You know what I mean? But you have to be part of Deeper Than the Brand to get all that information and apply. So deeperthanthebrand.com. Go find that out. You literally can get in for $37 if you find the right one. I'm just saying, if you find the right one, I ain't gonna tell you which one. But if you find the right one, you get that. I suggest the AI toolkit, but that's just me. And then of course, follow us everywhere. Nicky and Moose. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Moose, final words.
Yeah, I looked up this quote since we were talking about solopreneurship, and to a large extent, solopreneurship is about relying on yourself. This one said, if you truly want to be respected by people you love, you must prove to them that you can survive without them.
All right.
I don't know how y'all feel about that, but maybe it's time to prove to some people that you can survive without them.